Well, hello there, lovely people. Hello there, Cooperites. All around the world, how are we doing? Hello, Nicole, Packer, Max, Ralph. Yes, that is certainly something we have to, uh, boy, we got to discuss Grider tonight for sure.
Ralph, 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 Ralph.
Ralph, indeed. Good Lord. Hello, everybody. All right. Have you ever tried DB's drink? Actually, yes. The last time that when we flew, when Mrs. Sleuth and myself flew back from Portland, we decided to try a bourbon and 7 Up, and I not a fan, not a fan at all. No fan. Hey, Seth, how you doing, man? Checking in from Allentown, Frederick Heineman, Bill Heineman is what they called him, actually, Bill. Can't stand that guy. We're talking about Grider, I'm guessing. But no, as far as the drink goes, I was not a fan of the bourbon and 7 Up. Just not a bourbon's really not my thing. Maybe that's why he spilled it. Yeah, I don't know about him spilling that thing. That's an interesting thing. I do have some stuff to discuss today for sure. We're going to talk about Grider for sure. Hey, Ryan, which front chute did Cooper jump with, the decoy or the real one? He jumped with the decoy. But as we've discussed, there's really no way that Cooper would not have known that that was a dummy chute. So why he jumps with it, we kind of figured there's only one reason for Cooper to jump with that, and that is to get himself down from a tree, as paratroopers do. I wish I had a picture of that, but anyway, that's kind of what we discovered, and I think it was a paratrooper thing. Did the investigation extend to Canadian missing persons? I looked for Canadian missing. I've looked for Canadian missing persons for sure, but I've not seen anywhere in the FBI files where they're discussing that. Was the dummy chute even able to open to do the maneuver you explained? Yes, absolutely. What the dummy chute was is it was a parachute that the only thing that was changed about it was that the canopy was kind of folded up and sewn together, so it could be easily stuffed back in the pack. Basically, that's all. It still had the shroud lines connected to the rib cage of the container, so all the shroud lines were still there, everything like that. So when you opened it up, it would just fall out. It was for classroom demonstration, just saying this is what you do. You pull it, and it, which seems kind of, I don't know why you would need a classroom demonstration to know how to pull a ripcord on one of those things, but they did. So they would pull it, and it would fall to the ground, and and then you would shimmy down the shroud lines onto the ground. But Cooper took the dummy with him, and it was an obvious dummy. But now the dummy still had all the shroud lines. We know that for a fact. Earl Cossey certainly, he says that he explains it. He says, I just sewed it together, the canopy itself. So when you opened it, it wouldn't blossom out, because those things are a real pain in the butt. Once they open up a parachute, not good. Anyway, do you know how many of the copycats were caught because of the pressure bump? Probably Rob Hetty. I think Rob Hetty. Yeah, definitely Rob Hetty. Nobody else. LaPointe jumped in the daytime. It was obvious when he jumped because he was spotted by a plane, a tracking plane. A plane was following behind and saw him jump, and even circled around him when he was in his canopy. So LaPointe was not happy. Let's go through that. So Cooper's not caught. LaPointe is caught because he is seen jumping out, and they literally follow him to the ground, and he can't escape because he breaks his ankle basically on the ground. Who's next? McCoy. McCoy is caught because he never shut his mouth up and jumped really close to his home. So it's one of those things where, everybody who knew McCoy, or everybody who was around the community, knew that there was a skydiver, this McCoy guy, who was obsessed with Cooper and never shut up about Cooper and talked about how he could do a better hijacking. So when a hijacker jumps out with a parachute over Provo, Utah, naturally the people in Provo, Utah go, well, there's a skydiver who talks about Cooper a lot and says he could do it better. So they had several calls from people ratting him out. So not very smart on his part. But let's see who else. Heineman was next. Yeah, Heineman was next. He was caught because they put a bounty on his head in Honduras. That's why I think he was caught. Is he was in Honduras wandering around for about a month, and they had a dead or alive bounty on him. And those folks in Honduras, they might have gotten a machete and beheaded the man. So he turned himself in. Basically, he contacted a buddy of his and said, "Hey, will you?" Somebody he knew in the country, and he turned himself in. Hetty, of course, I think the pressure bump gave Hetty away because they knew where to be looking for a guy, and they were looking in that area. And in that area where he jumped out near, they found his car, which had a U.S. Parachute Association bumper sticker on it. So they just waited for him to come out of the woods, and they got him. Then Mac, of course, Mac was caught because he talked. He had accomplices, and they jammed him up. So that's what got Mac caught. That's why I don't think Cooper had an accomplice, really. I think Cooper just did his own thing, and he did have the benefit of being first because, hey, there were no boots on the ground in the drop zone for 40 hours. Hello, Mr. Sleuth. Hello. All right, the Squeal McCoy. That's funny, Packer. Ryan is the kid that found the Tina Bar money. Ryan is the kid. No, I'm not the kid. That would be. Oh, it is. It's Tina Bar Day, actually. Yeah. So was that 46 years ago? Hello, Mittens the kitten. Thank you for the pounds there. Great to see you again, Ryan. Thank you. Glad there was a Hetty Behetty. Glad there was no Hetty Behetty. Yes, no Hetty Behetty. There were some questions I'm missing. Okay. Where was it? Which chute did he jump with? These streams make me want to jump out of a plane. Well, let's see. Do you know how many copycats were caught because of pressure bump? Couldn't he have used the real front chute to get himself out of a tree? Also, why are you sure he did it on purpose? Well, man, I don't know why else you would take a dummy parachute. I mean, I don't know. And it didn't clip onto his harness because it couldn't. So he had to tie it to himself. I think that Cooper may not have even, I don't know with Cooper, he may not have even realized it was a dummy chute yet. I think he just opened one of the reserves because he knew right away that he wasn't going to be able to use the reserves at all. And I think he just grabbed a reserve and popped it open. He probably didn't. I mean, I'm sure he's probably like, when he saw that the one he didn't open was a dummy chute, he was probably like, oh crap, I should just use this one. But could have been that. I don't know. Cooper does some weird things, but I think he definitely did it on purpose. I mean, there's no reason. How's the book coming along? The book is done. I just need a publisher. Black Box Ned mentioned a lot of hijacks happened in Eastern Europe. Maybe Cooper was one of those anti-communist guys that came to the U.S. for money to be used to go fight communism. Possibly. I could do a better hijacking than McCoy, DeBoss says. My alias would be Jack Mama. That name was inspired by Beavis. Hey, Beavis. I am not the kid that found the Tina Bar money. If Cooper connected to that rental house, then he's not a CNE copycat, right? No, you're right. If there is a connection to the rental house, then he's not a CNE copycat. But folks, man, I really have a hard time thinking he was not a CNE copycat. That just seems so hold my beer, right? Why is people are mentioning Flying Frank? Well, hey, thank you. Da Vinci, Concerto Da Vinci. Thank you so much. That was really generous of you. I really do appreciate that. That was so kind. Could he maybe use it as a drag bag like paratroopers did? Maybe he didn't want to use the money in case it got smashed or damaged. Use it as a drag bag. Oh, I see what you're saying. To release it so he could hit the ground first. Maybe. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good thought. I'm torn if Cooper was a career criminal or a one-time opportunist. I can't see him waking up one day, mid-40s, and planning this as an outstanding citizen. Oh, no. Cooper was either somebody who was used to planning missions or he was a criminal, I think. The people who just wake up one morning and snap, we've seen those hijackers before. They don't get very far. If they gave him the dummy on purpose, maybe they hoped he would use it and die, right? It wasn't on purpose. I mean, we know why. 2 days later, Lynn Emmerich, the guy who gave the parachutes, the front chutes, said that he didn't think he would ever see the parachutes again. So he gave the dummy over. And what's funny is we actually see in the FBI files the reimbursement they gave Issaquah Sky Sports for the 2 front chutes. And the one that worked, they gave them $50, I think. And the dummy, they gave them like $25. So what would my alias be? John Holiday. John Holiday. Because that's Doc Holliday. I'm your Huckleberry. Tombstone, Doc Holliday, John Holiday. I love Doc Holliday. Hey, Ryan, when was the last time a skyjacking occurred for ransom in the U.S. and by whom? I don't know, because it's a good question. It seems like most of the hijackings that occurred in the 80s were done for like the Palestinian Liberation Organization, whatever, the PLO, or they had political motives. The 3 cheeseburgers and a Head Start guy was pretty late. That was 1982, I think. So that might have been, I don't know. That's a great question. I'll look into that and I'll put it in my book. That's a good question. I'll have to do that. Was Rob Hetty injured by his parachute like Mac? Yes. Rob Hetty jumped with a front reserve only and hit the ground pretty hard. He separated his shoulder. What rental house? Well, basically there was a rental house. Somebody called the FBI a week after the hijacking, or actually a couple of days after the hijacking, and said, hey, this couple rented one of my really crummy rental properties, and they rented it just for the month of November, and they prepaid, and they never moved anything in. But I met them, and the guy kind of looks like the sketch. He's kind of tall and Latin looking. And he had a Latin looking woman with him, and they paid me, and they moved in, but they never moved anything in. So they just had boxes. He saw them leaving with boxes and didn't know what the boxes contained. But anyways, the interesting thing about that, though, is that they did trace the check. What they did is they went and got the check that was paid, and they traced the check that they gave this landlord to a guy named Ben Leibson, who was like a card dealer in Vegas. Well, Ben Leibson, they went and staked out his house, and they determined that he was just a guy. But Ben Leibson, when they finally got a hold of him, the FBI went and talked to him, and they got his driver's license and everything. Ben Leibson's 5'8". Okay. What's interesting is that when they're talking to the landlord was describing this male as Latin looking and being about 6 feet tall. Now, I looked up the guy, Leonard Paget was his name, the landlord. I looked up his draft card to see how tall he was. He was 6 feet tall. So the landlord, says that the guy who moved in the house was 6 feet tall, but Ben Leibson is 5'8". What do we think about that? Very interesting, right? I assume that the FBI showed a picture of Leibson to Paget, but there's no record of that in the files, so maybe they didn't. Okay. I have a question about the FBI files. Are there many redactions? Would uncovering any of them possibly be useful, or probably not? Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Just today, there was a new drop. For example, there's a guy who the passengers, several of them, when they see his photo, they're like, the chin, the mouth, the head shape looks great. I can't say it's not Cooper. And this happens repeatedly. And that guy is redacted. So it's like, because it's really helpful for us to know when we see a name that's not redacted and they say, oh, it looks like this guy. Well, I can go look up a picture of that guy and glean some insight into what Cooper looks like. By that, but this guy, we don't know his name. So yeah, there's lots of redactions and lots. And they're very frustrating, especially when it's like, this guy looks like this guy looks like Cooper. And yeah. Are there any Canadian investigators that you know of who are researching suspects in Canada? No, I don't know any Canadian. Well, I know one, actually, that's strong. I do know one Canadian investigator who is researching a Canadian suspect who's not a terrible suspect. But yeah, those of you who are in the Vortex Deep know who I'm talking about. Happy Tina Bar Day. Yes, it is Tina Bar Day. The parachute on the bridge had to be his. Possibly, Jay. Too much attention to try to carry it away. I agree. I've read that paratroopers had their gear dangling under them, so they hit the ground. It would give them a last warning to brace for impact. Yep, that's the point of a drag bag. It takes, and also it makes you less heavy when you hit the ground. So you're not hitting. So if you loosen your drag bag and it's 50 pounds, and the bag hits first, then you're not hitting with 50 pounds. All right, Brian Earns. Boo Earns. Green Berets are the gods of parachuting. They're pretty good. I wouldn't say they're the gods of it, but they're good at it. I actually have a theory about why he chose Dan Cooper. Are there any other theories other than the comic book? Yeah, there is a, I actually found that a couple of years ago, there was a short story that was in a boys magazine from like 1930s that was in a very popular boys magazine at the time. And it was like a 15-page short story. And it was about a pilot who fights the bad guys. He's like a bad guy fighting pilot. And his name is Dan Cooper. And what's interesting about that is that they use the name Dan Cooper as a literary device. Okay. So like, for example, he's always called Dan Cooper. So it's Dan Cooper did that. Dan Cooper did this, right? It's all Dan Cooper stuff. So it's, I think I counted up the number of times that they say Dan Cooper in that, and it's like 105 times or something. So it's Dan Cooper did this, Dan Cooper. So there's that. But it could have just been somebody he knew, or I don't know. Funny, 5'8". He was too short by leaps and bounds. Oh my God, Packer, how do you do that? How are you that good at puns? This man is the best punster I have ever known. He was too short by leaps and bleeps. His name was Leapson, if you forgot. Leaps and bounds. What does Grider make of the 10 eyewitnesses who said McCoy wasn't Cooper? Oh, well, eyewitnesses are terrible. Okay. Eyewitnesses are terrible. God, I want to discuss Grider in more detail. That guy, no, we're going to get some new suspects in January. I was going to say we're going to get some new suspects in January. We're going to have some new suspects. At least 3, possibly in the next month or so. Do you get the sense that Larry Carr is really rooting for Citizen Sleuths to solve this? Absolutely. Larry's a good friend of mine. Absolutely. 100%. Larry, look, it's this thing where it's like, this is the most obnoxious thing I think that Dan Grider does. And I will see comments on my page under, I guess he has these sycophants who just repeat every word that Carnival Barker says, but they say, you don't want the case solved because you make money off of it, which is laughable. My God, as I say, I'm going to lose $200,000 to DB Cooper at some point. I do not make money on Cooper as much as I spend on this crap. But no, that accusation's stupid. You don't want it solved. So you don't want to admit Grider solved it because you don't want it solved. To me, that is like telling let's take a Christian who lives his life piously, his whole life. This is the most devout Christian there is on planet Earth. And you're basically suggesting that when he dies, he's going to choose to go to hell. Like, I know I lived this life piously. I know I'm a huge Christian, but I'd rather just go to hell. I'll pass on heaven. That's like, again, why am I doing this if not to know who he was? This is an obsession to know who he was. anybody who could find out who Cooper was, great. If it was McCoy, great. I would have loved it to be McCoy. I like McCoy. He's interesting. But it's not McCoy. So that is the dumbest argument there is, that we don't want this solved. Like, I mean, considering how much I devote my time to this, I might be the person on earth who wants this solved the most by effort. So like that is such a stupid, nonsensical argument. But that's what Grider has to say. But yeah, so Grider, if you watch my video, something's off with that guy lately. Like, why does he think he proudly proclaims in that video, they have returned the parachute to me. And I think the host was so like taken aback. He was like, wow, as if it's a good thing. Like, Grider is so disconnected with the reality that he does not realize that saying that the FBI returned the parachute to him, that would make anybody go, oh, well, that's must not be it then. To think that the FBI would return the most infamous missing artifact in their entire history to a citizen, to Dan Grider for safekeeping. Hey, we'll give it back to you. We're not going to put it in a museum. You don't think they put DB Cooper's parachute in the Smithsonian, in the FBI part? Of course they would. But yeah, they're going to give it back to Dan Grider. There's a terrible, it's so true that what is it? The truth, falsehoods fly, but the truth comes limping behind, or things like, falsehoods can travel the world by the time the truth puts its pants on. I'm having to constantly play a game of catch up with Dan Grider because he can just go on podcasts and go on CNN and just literally say things. You folks who follow me know that when I say things, like everything I'm saying to you people, I've got a file for it somewhere. Grider is literally inventing things. And that interview was so strange, wasn't it? Because he's boasting about them returning the parachute. And the part where he's describing finding the parachute on camera with the camera rolling, coincidentally, he is protesting way too much. It's just like, totally legit. It was legit. It was legit. I had my son. We just said, look, we just decided we were going to take a detour and drive 4 hours to go see McCoy's grave. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And then he admits that he bought stuff from Cassie's estate. And Nikki reached out to Cassie's kids, and they remember selling Grider a flight suit from their dad. And he was asking for other things, but the son cannot remember what Grider was asking for. So make of that what you will. I will not say anything more because I'll get sued, but make of that what you will. Okay. Does the FBI still have letter number 3 in their possession? Yes, they have all the letters in their possession. They're all on the FBI vault. So, okay, Mittens, please do email me your Dan Cooper theory. I would love to hear that. Remember the guy who said he solved the case by analyzing the writing on the ticket, which would mean Cooper was the ticket agent because that's who's writing it. He said the writing was Kinney's. Yeah. That again, the problem with these people like Dan Grider or that person, they don't know the case. Like they don't know the case. Like Grider thinks that Cooper jumped out holding the money bag in his hands. And he thinks that McCoy did that. A skydiver and a paratrooper thinks they could hold anything in their hands when they're jumping. No, he was not McCoy. Whoever Cooper was, he's definitely dead by now. Oh yeah, he's dead. If DB Cooper was still alive, would he be prosecuted if he came forward? Does the statute of limitations apply here? There is no statute of limitations for this. They secured a John Doe indictment, which tolls the statute of limitations. So it will always exist. But yeah, that they would prosecute him, but it would be something stupid. I don't know what they would do. It would be some slap on the wrist thing because the guy would be ancient, and they're not going to put an ancient guy in prison forever. But um, it's a great question. I mean, it's not like he was, it's one thing when you catch a Nazi, concentration camp guard who's 95 years old. Those guys should be prosecuted. But Cooper wasn't a great guy, but I mean, I don't know if he deserves to be prosecuted. Although Bill Mitchell would want him prosecuted. I've asked Bill that. I said, Bill, after all these years, would you want Cooper prosecuted? He said, oh yeah, for sure. My 40-year obsession with Coop is obviously to impress the chicks. I know. Yeah. That's why we're in this. Dan Greider is only interested in his version of the truth. Sunken cost fallacy. Absolutely. There's a lot of sunken cost fallacy in this case. A lot. Just, we see it all the time. The FBI doesn't return evidence in an open case. They don't return evidence at all if it's valid. Maybe there was a congratulations note with it. Yeah, we'll give the parachute back to Greider. You solved it. Dum, 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 dum. Have a parade, Dan. Absolutely. Dan, this is not the parachute. We don't need it. Please give it back to the family or whoever owns it, 100%. But Dan will lie and say not, because Dan knows they're never going to make a statement. They will never make a statement on this parachute because they do not make statements on false leads. Ted Braden is Cooper for sure. No. Ted Braden is, I love Ted Braden, but Ted is very short. Ted was very short, Max. No one on the planet Earth would ever have mistaken Ted Braden, sadly, for 6'1" or 6 feet tall. I can't imagine. Ryan, wouldn't it go to Norman Hayden's family if it was returned, since it was his and he got the other one back? Fair point. What was Greider arrested for? Which one? Which time? He's been arrested multiple times, each time for assault. He has a restraining order against him. A woman who is not a family member has a restraining order against him, and Dan Greider appealed the restraining order. Could you possibly imagine? I mean, I understand maybe you would appeal a restraining order if it was like your child or something, but a non-familial relationship female has a restraining order against you, and you try to appeal it saying, oh, I don't want this restraining order against me. She doesn't want to know you, dude. Yes, I found it weird he kept bragging about recording someone without their consent. 100%. What was he doing? He's talking about how he ambushed Himmelsbach with a video camera. Okay. He's bragging about recording Denise Burns, McCoy's sister-in-law, without her consent when she's like 80 years old. He's bragging about telescopically filming people from the woods who don't know he's there when he's recording these FBI agents at the McCoy Ranch or whatever. Blackwing, he said, his kids love him, and that's about all you can say about the guy positively. He was looking for something specific, is what he told me. This is Nikki talking about Earl Cossey's kids talking to Nikki. They said Greider was looking for something specific. Well, I know what he was looking for. A parachute container. McCoy's kids are cool. Yeah, they're fine. The McCoy kids, Shanti and Rick, are great people. I know them. I've spoken to both of them. They're good. They're fine. And you know, there's no antagonism between me and them. That they know my take on their dad, and it is what it is. McCoy was a fanboy, right, Ryan? Yes. Is it true that one of McCoy's kids thinks he was Cooper? Both think he's Cooper. That's to be blunt there, Byron. Byron says, even if you believed it was the right parachute, it's so ridiculous to think that anybody would keep the parachute. A parachute's like a condom. Yeah, I mean, why would you keep evidence from a capital crime as a souvenir? That's stupid. You should no longer mention that man just feeding him what he wants. I wish, but I mean, he has to be discussed, So Dan Grider is basically Robert Graysmith, but with DB Cooper. Who is Robert Graysmith? I don't know that name. Is that a Zodiac thing or something? Ryan, I think that Grider wants to be someone and they'll manufacture evidence to gain followers. In a way, he's like Jim Jones peddling voices from the air ducts. Yeah, I agree. I think he does seem damn the torpedoes. I don't care. I mean, it's like, I assume he has seen my arguments against him because he does an impression of me stuttering and stuff. So, speaking of that, Mystery Bag says, in all seriousness, Dan doesn't really believe much of what he says. Yes, it's just hype for his YouTube channel. I don't know. I think if yes, he should know it. He should know that parachute's not Cooper's parachute. And I think he has personal knowledge of that parachute not being Cooper's parachute. Was Cooper able to get Tina Mucklow's phone number before he bailed out? No. Can I interview Tim Collins about his suspect, Dwayne Weber? Tim is not in the Vortex. Tim is impossible to find. Interesting guy. I would just go listen to those listen to the Vortex episodes with Darren again and again and again with Tim Collins. That cannot be improved upon. There's nothing I would be able to talk to him about. I would like to talk to Galen Cook. To hear that Galen Cook is back talking about DB Cooper, I would be interested to talk to him as a fellow attorney. Obviously, he's the gossip guy, but disappeared from the Vortex all of a sudden back 10 years ago or something. Ryan, Ted Braden lost weight, grew by losing weight like a dinosaur. What? Okay. If your book doesn't sell, are you going to bury them at Tina Bar? That's funny. That's funny. I'm mostly a Zodiac sleuth, but want to learn more about DB Cooper besides Lamino and Docs. Any book recommendations? Just watch my videos, Bilal. Just go watch my back catalog of videos. I think that will be sufficient. And especially go watch my narrative videos, my DB Cooper hijacking part 1 and part 2. Was Ralph Himmelsbach just seeking fame? I think he enjoyed it. Yeah. Jay says he enjoyed Dan's episodes on McCoy. I agree. They're good. I mean, they're very persuasive, and that's why people buy it. So, I would like to talk to you about a theory of mine. Okay, so I have a theory, and I want to bounce it off the community. So we have Cooper with the mystery bag, right? We have Cooper with his mystery bag, which looks something like this, right? A little smaller than that. My AI for that is a little. My AI for that's a little small. I meant to say the bag is a little big. The bag should be a little bit smaller. The bag was described as being a little bit smaller than the briefcase. Okay. So, but here's my theory that I came up with. All right. So I think, and I came to this realization just laying around thinking about what I would do. Because again, people are people. We all do things similarly. What would I do? And something to remember, Dennis Lisney does not say Cooper had a bag, he had a briefcase. That's the ticket agent. Hal Williams does not see the mystery bag. Okay. Florence Schaffner does not see the mystery bag. She never mentions the mystery bag at all. And Flo watched Cooper walk across the tarmac toward her. Okay. She was at the bottom of the stairs taking tickets. So she saw Cooper. She says, I first saw him walking across, with carrying a briefcase and like a trench coat, walking across the tarmac toward me. So no mystery. So the mystery bag is not seen until he's on the plane. All right. That tells me that the mystery bag was inside the briefcase. Okay. Now I used to think that the mystery bag was inside the briefcase, like as stuffing, sort of like because if you have this dynamite bomb in there, Tina said that the dynamite bomb was in the left corner of the briefcase. So if it's in a corner of a briefcase, that means it's not big enough to fill the whole briefcase. And we know how big dynamite is. I mean, it's not dynamite and a battery, like a tall lantern battery. Okay, not going to fill up the briefcase. But let me see if I could find that that photo of the. I guess not. Do I not have the? Yeah. Okay. This might be what I was thinking of. It's going to look like this. This is what I originally thought. I mean, excuse the poor animation, but yeah, that's basically what we're looking at, right? I thought maybe the bag was in like kind of a stuffing, right? Because if you're walking around with a briefcase with a dynamite in there, even if it's a prop, you don't want it bouncing around inside your briefcase. So you put your mystery bag that has your goggles, gloves, whatever's in there. You put that inside the briefcase as well, and that kind of acts as padding to kind of keep the bomb, whatever, stuck. But I think that the bomb was originally inside the bag. Okay, I think that the bomb, along with other things, so I think the bag would have originally inside the briefcase. I think the bag actually probably contained whatever was in there, goggles, gloves, whatever else, but also contained the dynamite bomb. Because think about it. What if you're walking through the airport? What if you're Cooper, okay, and you're just walking around the airport, and suddenly your briefcase opens up? What are you going to do? I mean, your briefcase opens up somehow, some way, and your dynamite bomb goes rolling across the floor, right? What are you going to do? What if you're? So I think that it would have been smart to have it inside the bag. And so what I think happens is I think Cooper sits down and kind of, turns his body a little bit and opens his briefcase and takes the bomb out of the or takes the bomb out of the bag, kind of lays it down. And he takes that bag and he puts that bag underneath. He takes that bag and puts it underneath his seat. Okay. Which that's what you would do, right? You put it underneath your seat. Because see, look, Alice never sees the bag. Flo never sees the bag. Now, Tina sees the bag probably because it's under Cooper's seat. And she gets the vantage point, and Bill sees the bag. Think about when you're on a plane and you're across the aisle from somebody, you can kind of see under their seat sometimes. And so I think that Bill saw the bag underneath the seat, and Tina saw the bag underneath the seat. And Nancy, the main woman who saw the bag, she saw it because it was she saw it when he came out of the bathroom, right? So that's that. But yeah, imagine Cooper walking through the airport and his briefcase opens up and the bomb falls out and goes skittering across, right? I mean, we've got Cooper walking through the airport like this, and his bag the briefcase opens up. Oh no. So that's what I think. I think that the bomb was inside the bag. Okay. So what do y'all think about that? I think that, and again, because like I said, if the briefcase opened up, a bag would fall out. Big deal. But no, it's not empty, folks. Folks, bear with me. I'm saying it had other stuff in there too. Okay. It had his goggles, gloves, whatever, boots, whatever was in there, but it also had the bomb in there too. Okay. So I think it had that too. I'm saying it had, and so whatever else was in the bag, it wasn't just an empty bag, because we know it's not an empty bag, because remember, look at the size of it. This is the description. Nancy says it's about the same width and length as the briefcase, a little bit smaller, and about 4 inches tall. So obviously it had some stuff in it. Wow, this is live. Yes, Gonzo Book, this is live. So that's what I think Well, at least Cooper didn't leave his bag in the departure lounge like McCoy. Yeah, I know. No kidding. Any cops at airports, anyone do random checks on bags? No, not at that time. The only time your bag would be checked at back then is if you went through a metal, if either you went through. So actually, the only time they checked your bags is if you were selected as a selectee. Remember, back then they did profiling, and Cooper was raising the antennas of Hal Williams for sure, but he didn't hit enough of the markers to be pulled out of line. Profiling really worked. I mean, there are some crazy statistics of how many guns were seized and things just by profiling. So they profiled the hell out of people back then, and they would have checked his bag. But anyway, so I think that Cooper opens the briefcase, takes the bomb out of the bag. And I'm really starting to think too, the more I was thinking about the bomb, that thing's fake. That's fake. I was always been agnostic about it one way or the other, but it's fake. It was meant to look like a bomb. I mean, it's almost like a prop bomb because it's 8 sticks of dynamite, 4 on top of 4, wrapped with red tape. And it had one wire leading from the dynamite that Cooper threatened to touch to the terminal at the end of one of the I have it with 2 cords there. It's actually 1 cord. So there's 1 cord. He was like, I'll touch it. If I touch it to the top of the terminal, we're all going to die. But something he said to Tina really bugged me. It makes me think it's bullcrap. Let me find that quote from Tina about the bomb that kind of irked me a little bit. Let's see. She says, where is it? Sorry, folks. Yeah, okay. Here it is. Listen to this. She says, where'd it go? I'm sorry, folks. I lost it again. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Yeah, he says that the bomb was electrically fused, and he hoped that the crew would not generate any electrical currents that would trigger it. And then in her second 302, which I should have that. Cooper calls it an electronic device. The bomb is an electronic device, and they should be careful not to generate electronic waves. What the hell is he talking about? Like, what a weird thing to say. Like, what? It just sounds like a prop to me. Absolutely. A fake bomb is still an offense. Look, if you rob a bank with your finger in your pocket, stick them up, see? Like if you have a finger in your pocket like it's a gun, it's still armed robbery. So it doesn't matter. It's legally, it's the intent, or it's the impact that matters, right? Not the intent. Impact. So your victims think it's real. They thought it was a real bomb, so they behaved accordingly and they were scared of it. So that's that. Anyway, so that's BS. What's BS? What, that a finger in a coat gets your armed robbery? Well, again, it's impact. It's it doesn't matter. Would it be worth submitting a FOIA again for the hair slide? Yeah, why not? I may as well. He was probably addressing what would detonate it, real or fake. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Again, Tina is probably not listening too well to things he's saying. I would think that she's probably, who knows what she's remembering, because I'm sure she's afraid, right? Anyway, sorry about that. All right. So, do you think there was any consideration of rushing DB Cooper to disarm him? No. No. I mean, I don't know who you mean by like the FBI or anything? Because no, the FBI, remember, the FBI are told to stand down. Nobody, um, nobody was doing anything. I mean, the FBI never even touched the money. They never touched a parachute. The bomb was manufactured by Acme and would only detonate when Wiley Cody set it off. Yeah. There's no evidence of him having a handgun. No, but I bet he had one though. I would think that. I think that was in the bag for sure, because he's got to have a secondary threat. Think about that. You have to have a secondary threat. If somebody calls your bluff on the bomb, you're screwed, right? I mean, I think about if you watch the American Skyjacker, you think about Robin Oswalt, the 16-year-old who went on a plane with flares that she claimed were dynamite. As soon as a construction worker walked past her on the way to the bathroom and yelled out, "This girl's got flares," it was over. So if somebody had called Cooper out on the bomb, then he's toast. He's screwed. How cold is it in Mississippi? It's 63 degrees. It's not cold at all. What if the whole vortex shows up at the Mississippi office and scours the building for the hair slide? It could be there. It could be. And they sent the hair slide back to LA on accident from DC. So maybe they sent it back to Mississippi, or maybe they sent it to Mississippi on accident too. So, but yeah, that's kind of my theory about the bag. I just think that that makes sense to me, that the bomb was inside the bag. I was talking to Nikki about this, and Nikki thought maybe the bomb wasn't even assembled inside the bag, because maybe you've just got spare parts inside. And if you were pulled out of line, you've got some flares and a battery, but so what? So what? So I mean, literally all it would take to make this bomb. It's 8 sticks of dynamite, 4 on top of 4, wrapped in red electrical tape, with a wire extending from the middle of the bundle that you're pretending you can tap to a tall battery and blow it up. Boom, boom. So I mean, it may not have even been assembled. I mean, seriously, you could do that. I mean, I'd do an experiment. I bet I could do that in a minute. You put it together at a seat. That's what Nikki thinks. Yeah. I mean, you sit down, you open your briefcase, you turn your body a little bit away from everybody, and just do it really quickly. I mean, you could do it. You could do it. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense, that he could have just put it together. And again, if for some reason you were searched, you've just got road flares or whatever. I mean, it would still be awkward to explain why you have red dynamite looking things, but still, if it's disassembled, then maybe, I don't know. Don't worry, I'll take it with me or disarm it before I go, says Cooper. What a con man. Well, I mean, says the sticks are the wrong color. No. It sounds like a Hollywood bomb. Yeah, I agree. All right. So one thing I wanted to do for a little while today is so people were asking me about, one thing I wanted to do today was, some people were asking me about the drop zone. Essentially, they're asking me about, could I go over the drop zone in more detail? And I'm probably gonna make a video at some point, but I may release this clip as a video. I don't know, but so I've been making some things on Google Earth, and let's just go through what we've got here. So basically, I'm going to do my share screen here. And let's see, share the screen. I will share my Google Earth. And let me see if it's popped up. Yeah, there we go. All right, I'm going to make it to where it's full screen. There we go. All right, so here we obviously have Portland and Seattle up there at the top. I actually made a full flight path one time of everywhere they were supposed to go. Yeah. So yeah, they were supposed to go to, obviously Reno was their first stop, then Yuma, then Mazatlan, Mazatlan. I don't know how to say that. I screwed that up. And then Mexico City. So it would have taken them 3 stops to get to Mexico City. And they had contacted airports at Yuma and at down there in Mexico as well. So if Cooper had still been on the plane in Reno, then they would have gone to Yuma and everywhere like that. But that's the complete flight path there. So the main thing to talk about is the timestamps that we have here. Okay, let me pull these up. Yep, there we go. So I've got Cooper. I mean, if you want to be really liberal, okay, I've got Cooper jumping out 8:10 to 8:13. Okay, I think it's 8:11. They say it's 8:11. They seem confident it was 8:11, but was it 8:11 in 1 second, or was it 8:11 in 55 seconds? They're not too detailed. But these are the hashes. These are the timestamps that the Air Force came up with. Remember, the Air Force is pinging Cooper's plane every 5 seconds. So they've got the location. And yeah, these hashes represent, despite, for whatever reason, Eric was like, oh, these are the, they were picking up the chase planes, the Delta Darts. Well, for one thing, the Delta Darts are flying in S turns because they can't stay behind the jet. Behind the jet, they're having to bleed off speed. And this just so happens to perfectly mimic the speed of a lumbering 727 going down Victor 23. So we know that this is where they did it. So the yellow, you've got the drop zone. Basically, they determined that Cooper is going to drift. If Cooper pulls immediately, Cooper's going to drift about 3 miles to the northeast. Now, the reason why it looks like this is because the wind was blowing to the northeast about 10 knots. Okay, so there's no chance Cooper's going west of the flight path. He's only going to go east or straight down, I guess, if he never pulls his parachute. But this is about a 3 mile distance. They said, okay, so if he pulls immediately, he's going to go about 3 miles. And I was looking at this. It's interesting. The FBI believes that Cooper's boots touched the ground, or his loafers, whatever you want to say he's wearing, his Oxford Street shoes. His feet touched the ground in Highland. That's what they just felt, that it was in Highland for whatever reason. And, I kind of figured out why. If you look at the map, if you split the baby, right? Remember, we don't know when at 8:11 it was. It could have been 8:11:01 or 8:11:59. So if you split the baby and go halfway, you'll end up, right there. And you split the baby again and you say that Cooper jumps and pulls his chute, not immediately, but kind of halfway down or whatever. Let's just say Cooper's going to drift 2 miles instead of 3 miles up to the northeast. Well, you put your marker down there, boom, and you drag it up, and you got, 2.5 miles to Highland, 2.5 to 3 miles to the northeast of the middle of 8:11, 8:12. You've got Highland. So I think that's why you see Highland. Okay. There's La Center. So that's where you're approximately over La Center. But, if Cooper jumps at 8:10, that's when you end up with Cooper around Ariel. Now, but now Cooper's not going to blow far enough to land in Lake Merwin, though, despite what some people think. His chute's not going to blow him that far. And I wanted to show some other places around the drop zone that are of note. First off, McClellan Field and the View Airfield. There it is, the View Airfield. There we go. So this is Jim McClellan's place there. You can see his little strip is right there. Little airstrip still there. He still flies. Jim McClellan, a DB Cooper suspect, was at CooperCon this past year, and it was great to actually hear from a suspect whose cars were, had crowbars to open the cars by the FBI, and the FBI are chasing him around. But you can see these 2 airfields are where the pearl clutching witnesses were like, there were small planes flying around the evening of the hijacking. And you can see why the FBI would be interested. I mean, look, View Airfield, where they saw a car parked. The FBI witnesses said they saw a plane flying around the View Airfield that night, which is a tiny little airfield. And there was a car parked there that was flashing its headlights like it was giving a signal. We know now that was Jim McClellan's wife, who was at CooperCon. saying, hey, it's safe to land. I'm going to turn my headlights on. You can land here. Because these people were landing, their landing strips at night were illuminated by car headlights. Anyways, but you can see why the FBI would have an interest in these stories. But it turns out that all of this stuff happened the day before the hijacking. The night before the hijacking was Jim and his buddy were flying around, and they had a perfectly valid reason, and their flights were logged with the airports and everything. So, but that's kind of neat to see the View Airfield, to see, you can kind of see how close it is to the drop zone. Okay. The next thing is Casey's store, right? We have Casey's burglary. This is a store that's broken into, and the perp takes gloves, cigarettes, cigars, and Polaroid film. Odd thing to take. Now, this is on the Lewis River Road. Now, remember, what is on the Lewis River Road is, where did I not? Oh, I guess I didn't add that as a, anyway, I didn't add that as a marker, but right around here, if you can see my mouse, I'm not sure you can see it, but right around here is the Frederickson Road, Lewis River Road intersection. This is where Jean Babitsky said that she saw Cooper. Well, and he's walking this direction he's walking west. So whoever that was might've been the guy who broke into Casey's store and took stuff. Now, we know that Casey's store was broken into. That was on the news. Okay. That was reported by the news, but there's a 302 that talks about a store being a small general store being broken into that is about 10 miles south of Lake Merwin Dam that night around 11 o'clock. Well, if you go 10 miles south of Merwin Dam, you come right to the Heisen store. It's 9.5 miles southeast of Lake Merwin Dam. It's the Heisen store. So for the longest time, Cooper Sluice, we're thinking that the Heisen store is the store that's burglarized. But the 302 that talks about the Heisen store says that the person who broke into the Heisen store stole gloves, jerky, and cigarettes. Well, that sounds really familiar to the Casey store burglary, doesn't it? So it makes me wonder, when the guy said that it was south of Lake Merwin Dam, 10 miles. Well, I mean, this is not 10 miles, but the Casey store is 5.5 miles kind of south west of Merwin Dam. Maybe that's what they're talking about. What would be the odds that two small little general stores are broken into both at 11 o'clock at night and both have the same type of things taken? So I kind of don't think the Heisen store is a thing. I think that they may have been talking about Casey's store. I really do think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think the odds of that are, oh, there it is, the Lewis River Road sighting. So there we go. Yeah. So Casey store and Lewis River Road sighting. Okay. So let's zoom out again and look at our oh goodness. There we go. Look at our timestamps again. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay over the Army search, where the Army searched. Okay. This is the Army search. Oh my goodness. Did I mess up? It says it's not found. Well, crud. That's no good. It's missing. Well, that's no fun. Well, the Army search, that kind of kills everything. Sorry. One thing I'll point out about the Army search, though, is Barbara Derry was found. I guess I'll have to make another video. Barbara Derry was found right around here at the grist mill, the old grist mill. So kind of a place where people look around for things. So two women who were looking for bottle caps or something found her body at the bottom of a well. Now the Army had actually been through there a few days before, and I guess they didn't look in the bottom of the well. But Barbara Derry went missing about a month before the Army show up. This is in March of '72. Barbara Derry was an 18-year-old college student, and she went missing near Vancouver about a month earlier, and she had been stabbed and assaulted. And no one's ever been convicted of it, but it was almost certainly Warren Forrest who was a serial killer who was operating in 71, 72, 73 in this county. And he, same thing, he stabbed and assaulted like 5 different women. And so Barbara probably was a victim of that guy there, of Warren Forrest. But yeah, so I mean, let's just look again though. Let's look at where Tina Barr is, and let's look at our timestamps. I mean, look at this. The plane doesn't go anywhere near Tina Barr. Okay, Tina Barr is. I mean, if we think Cooper's Landing near Highland, what is that? That's a little stretch there. That is 15 miles away from where they think Cooper's gone. And even like where the plane crosses over the Columbia, you're still, 7 or 8 miles away. And look, Cooper, this is why Cooper's not landing in river, folks. I mean, Cooper's jumping out. Like I said, we have the timestamps. I mean, we have the transcript now of Bill Radachek stating that basically he turned to look at when the pressure bump happened, he turned to look at the gauges on the flight engineers panel behind him, and that yanked his headset off. And that's at 8:11. So there's no chance Cooper is still on the plane by 8:17 or 8:16 or even 8:15, whatever. He's gone. So that's that. That's the thing. I'll probably make a better video at some point, but anyway, that's what we're dealing with there. Okay, I'm back. Oh no, I'm there. There I am. Hello, I'm back. All right. Okay, wormhole. They actually went over to the Lewis River Golf Course in Woodland. Who are we talking about? I heard that the Casey store sold sage ham sandwiches. All right. X marks the spot. So what are we talking about? Someone asked about the tie. The tie is, I don't know. I mean, the problem with the tie is just, I think it was Cooper's for certain, but how long Cooper had it, who knows? Where he got it from, who knows? Might have been his brother-in-law's. I mean, I am all about the tie, though. I mean, I'm all about exploring those leads because every lead matters. And this is a piece of evidence from Cooper himself. It's all we have. It's the only thing that we have that the guy touched other than the boarding pass, because he would have passed the boarding pass to Hal Williams. But the tie is his. He touches the tie, right? So I think the tie is it's a valid lead, and maybe it can lead somewhere. But I guess I'll say it this way: with suspects, there are people like Eric Eulis. Okay, Eric, a friend of mine, not insulting Eric, but if you have no tie particle connection, then Eric just says, "We're done." I mean, full stop. I don't want to hear about it. I don't do that because, like, again, I'll say this: you get bonus points. I will never eliminate somebody as a suspect for not having a connection to the tie particles. So, but I will see. I'll never eliminate a suspect because of the tie particles, but I will definitely raise someone if they have tie particle connections. The Goodwill tie. Did the FBI investigate all reports of stolen cars in the drop zone that night? They did. They looked for it. I mean, there weren't any that I'm aware of. I've looked through the newspapers as well. Vordahl is closest to the tie particles. Am I right? Probably. I mean, of all the people who've been named by the Vortex, I mean, Vordahl has a reason to have every single piece of material on the tie on him. I think the Vortex needs a dedicated video on the flight path drop zone. Well, you'll be getting one tomorrow, probably. I do have a dedicated. I am releasing a video tomorrow, I think, that is on basically explaining the flight path, why it's accurate. I mean, most of you viewers know it well, but for the people who don't know, the case too well. It's a good refresher to explain the flight path, to explain the drop zone, why we know where he jumped, et cetera, et cetera. Where are we getting more information on the POI whose family approached you? Close. I think I'm going to go visit them in the next month. It was interesting. I was talking to a person who knew him. His daughter didn't really see him at all after she was 8 years old. So she had no real relationship with him, but one of his nephews lived with him for a while in a few years before he did. Well, I don't say too much, but he when he was younger, he spent a lot of time as a teenager with this guy. And he gave a great description. I said, what was he like? He goes, he was like a cat. He said he was like a cat. And I was like, I've never thought about if Cooper was an animal, he'd be a cat for sure. He said that the guy kind of blended in. Like he could be in the same room as you and you wouldn't even know it because he was so quiet. He would just sit there and he spoke very little. He said he was like a cat and he was expressionless, had dead eyes, kind of like a cat. Cats don't have any expression, right? So he said he was like a cat. And I could see Cooper being like a cat. He said that he just kind of like glided around and you wouldn't really see him like that. So I'm excited for the full audio to be released. I'm excited for the full audio to be found. Ryan, that photo you showed at Cooper, kind of him sitting in the chair with his dog, creeped me out. But photos of that guy creep a lot of people out. In my estimation, I think you'd be really hard pressed to find someone who looks more like the descriptions of Cooper than that guy. He's got everything you want. The weird lip, neck problem, neck injury, narrow head, marcelled kind of hair. Who is that guy? Well, I can't say his name yet. Sorry. I'm being very good with the family. They're worried that Cooper freaks might come after them. And I'm trying to say, look, no one does that. Well, I can't say that. There are a few people out there, but I'm like, look, nobody's going to bother you. Nobody bothered Vordal's family or Skip Hall's family. Nobody cares to bother anybody. What guy, what photo? It hasn't been released yet. Sorry. Dan enters the chat. Dan Grider, yes. God. A lot of Dan Grider subscribers think Cooper is McCoy, or I read all the comments on his channel. Well, he gets rid of the comments. He guards his comments like a hawk. He will delete any comment negative that says it wasn't McCoy. That's just what he does. So yeah, every comment you're going to get. But it's so weird. I ask people and they never respond to me. Never respond to me. When they never respond. When they type something, they always say, "Oh, Dan proved it to me." And I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "Do you just believe whatever the guy says? Explain to me why you believe him." And then they never respond because they don't know what to say. It's like, what evidence has he shown? Has he shown you any documents about anything ever? Or does he just talk? And yeah, he just talks. He literally makes things up. And you shouldn't get to do that, right? You shouldn't be allowed to just lie like that. I can't, it's just, I have seen you challenge him to debate. I would debate him in a heartbeat, but he could not debate me because he's literally making things up as he goes along. And just lying, like saying that the FBI validated the parachute. That is a lie. You shouldn't get to do that. But, here we are. I'm getting close, folks, to, I'll share with you. I am getting close on my AI. So look, with the AI, we're getting good, people. I'm getting better. I'm getting decent at it. I upgraded my computer. I spent $2,000. Yes, Yes, because I make money off Cooper. No, I spend money. It was a crazy learning process. It's been a chore to learn how to make AI on your own. Max, we're talking about AI videos, artificial intelligence, AI videos. But I've been able to make them on my own computer now, and that means I can have consistent characters, which is really important, right? Because you want to have consistency with your characters. I wonder if I can play the one. I'll play what I sent Bill Mitchell. I think this is yeah. So Bill, for those who don't know, just a random, Bill is a Seahawks fan. Bill Mitchell is a major Seahawks fan. He is such a fan that he travels to away games. He and his wife travel to away games. So they are big time super fans. So I decided to make this for Bill. Hope the audio plays.
Hey kid, go Hawks. 12 is 1.
That's hey kid, go Hawks. 12 is 1. That's their motto. 12 is 1. So yeah. I'll play that again for people.
Hey kid, go Hawks. 12 is 1.
He enjoyed that. He thought that was a great he texted me back. I texted that to him and he texted me back that he was thrilled by it. I will show you guys. Let me try to pull this up. Let me see if this is the one here. Sorry, this is bad pod. Not that one. Let's see. Where is this? Might be it. Hang on a second. I'm sorry, folks. Bad pod. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I've been trying. The hardest thing to do, maybe the hardest thing I've done, it's been a real chore, is getting his jump. I have spent so much effort on AI trying to get his jump because I need a good graphic for him jumping. And so I'll share with you guys the Cooper. It's hot in here. I can turn my air conditioner on. A Cooper jumping graphic here. Look, this took forever, and it's not even close to being good, but it's good. It's good enough. So, bonsai. There you go. Good enough. Bonsai. Or maybe Geronimo would be better. Geronimo. Just trying to get programming it so the oscillations jump up and down, so the stairs bounce up and down was really a major headache for sure. That was the biggest pain in the butt. Although I'll show you a really good one that I'm proud of for sure. Let me try to find one to show you guys. Yeah, this is a really good one. But yeah, these take a long. These aren't very easily made here. So let me upload this one that I think is beautiful. Is it going to upload? I know this is bad. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm really sorry. Just hit fast forward. But or you can come watch the show on YouTube when it's done. But is that wait? I don't think that's the may not be the right one there. Yeah, there we go. Check out that. Ain't that a beauty? Look at there, Mr. Cooper. And this is an accurate reconstruction of the boarding gate area as best I could. Chris Brower found a photo of the boarding gate area in that terminal at the time. And this is a reconstruction that I had to build this set. So that is the boarding gate. And even the little ramp down. Remember they had to walk out to the plane down this ramp to go out and exit. And if you remember, Hal Williams describes Cooper as staring out the window. So kind of neat. So anyway, yeah, that's a good. It looks better than Cats. Thanks. No, it looked better. I honestly, like, there was an AI commercial that was just at the Super Bowl. It was like terrible, and I was like, man, anyway, sorry, I had to text someone, but Coca-Cola does the AI commercials. It was the commercial with like young, it had like Jennifer Aniston and Ted Danson in them in it. It was kind of like de-aging them. It was terrible. It looked like crap. Let's see, I've got one that's pretty good of thought I had a good one of flow. Yeah, don't stay calm, just follow. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Anyways, so what are we gonna talk about, folks? Sorry, bad pod. Talking about the Super Bowl. That was a terrible game. Like that was a nightmare of a game to watch. Brutal. And yeah, the halftime show. Look, it was I guess I'm officially an old man. I have never heard of Bad Bunny. The first time I've ever not heard of a halftime show performer, I'm like, who in the world? Who in the world? The Patriots should have won, said Max. No, the Patriots should not have won. They were they kind of coasted to the Super Bowl. Max says, I'm 19 years old and I feel old already. Dude, what do they say? Youth is wasted on the young or whatever. Talk about the new suspects. I can't. They're not my suspects. I can't talk about people who I'm going to have on my show in the next month or two. Two different guys. God, I am sweating like a pig. Two different guys on my show who are going to have suspects who have both good suspects. And then whenever I mean, the guy is not my suspect, the one at CooperCon. He's just a suspect who I just want better suspects. That's all. I mean, for so long we've had the Dwayne Weber and the Gossett and Recca and them. They're just not good suspects. Or William J. Smith. I am sweating like McCoy. Yes. At least my makeup's not coming off. But anyway, Ryan, do a poll on bomb, real or fake. I would think that most people would say it's fake because there's no reason for it to be real, really. And just the things he was saying to Tina. I mean, like like I'm going to touch a wire to a battery, boom, and we're going to blow up. That just, I mean, yeah, to someone who doesn't know explosives, it's effective, but it doesn't seem like it was. Doesn't seem like it was real. So I don't think it's an age thing. It's a culture difference. Maybe with Bad Bunny. I don't know. What about the Johnson Associate? Yeah, that's one of them. The Johnson Associate's definitely one of them. And it's a good one. I mean, he's a good suspect. Doesn't have too many flaws. Why show the bomb at all? I agree. I guess he just wanted them to show that he meant business, I suppose. But yeah, he didn't need to show the bomb. He could have just said, I have a bomb in my briefcase, and they would have done it. They weren't going to take that risk. Question, since nothing was ever found, do you think he took everything with him? Didn't chunk anything out the back? No, I think he chunked the briefcase out the back. And because, I mean, if we were to look at the flight path again, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, let's look at that. Let's pull it up again. Okay, let's look at our flight path. Let's look at the full flight path. Wait, that's not right. Why is it all messed up like this? Why is it wrong? That's not right. Is it not? Uh-oh. Why is it thinking that's the flight path? That's not the flight path. That's not my flight path. Why is it doing this? It's all messed up. It's all whacked out for some reason. I'm not sure why it's maybe I have to hit the. There we go. I think I have to do that. There we go. So yeah, if we look at the flight path, look at most of the entire flight path is absolute wilderness. Like, these are not cities. There are no real there. I mean, there are little hamlets every now and then, but like most all of this is just woods. Okay, now we're getting up to Seattle up here, but like the majority of this is like deep, 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 deep woods. I mean, there's Mount St. Helens. So this is really heavy stuff until you get down to, you know, it messed up again, didn't it? Why does it do that? It keeps messing up my flight path. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, the majority of the flight path is just wilderness. So my point is that Cooper throws his briefcase out somewhere, anywhere near here. It will never be found. I mean, there are places I'm sure in these woods that no humans have ever gone. So, I mean, think about this. Think about Mac, right? Mac jumps out. Mac jumps out over farm country. Okay, Mac's jumping out over Indiana, and Mac's briefcase was never found. They found Mac's pants. They found his pistol. They found his submachine gun, which landed on an Air Force base. I don't think the audio's gone, is it? I hope not. Somebody says the audio's gone. Hello? Or am I being heard? That's a very heavy thing to say the audio's gone. Okay, I guess not. Nobody's complaining. Mittens the kittens. Okay. It's a very serious accusation to say the audio's gone. Must be you, Mittens the kitten. But anyway, yeah, so Cooper, they never found Mac's briefcase. So if they never found Mac's briefcase and it was thrown out over farm country, and they knew where he jumped out and they still never found it, then very good chance that Cooper's briefcase would never be found. McCoy's stuff, some of the McCoy stuff was they never recovered McCoy's luggage. McCoy threw some luggage out the back at one point, apparently, and then they never found that luggage. Dana, you don't want to know that answer. Dana says, how many hours a week do you devote to Cooper conversations, activities, and such on average? 50, maybe 60. I don't know. A lot. Did Bill Radachek talk to Cooper over the interphone? Yes, he did. It was Bill who, Bill spoke to Cooper directly twice. So Cooper talked to the cockpit twice. Cooper calls up and is complaining that he can't get the stairs down. The stairs won't open up. Can't get the stairs down. Slow it down. And so Radachek says, okay. And Radachek slows it down and says, okay, you can probably get the stairs down now. So then at 8:05, they call back there, and he's not hearing the interphone because all the noise. They're ringing the interphone, ring, 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 chiming it. He doesn't pick up. So what they do is they go over the intercom, the PA. Oh, pick up the phone, sir, pick pick up the phone. And so he sees the phone ringing and picks it up and says, "What?" And they go, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yes, I'm fine." Or he says, "I'm okay." And he hangs up, and that's the last contact with Cooper. So 8:05. And right a few minutes after that is when we start getting the oscillations and then the pressure bump. So he's gone within 5 minutes, 6 minutes of when they called him and said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm good." Now, they did, when they were approaching Reno, it gets pretty old. Tina says she was just shouting on the intercom, sir, please raise the stairs. Sir, please raise the stairs." Because she's like, "Sir, if we land, it's going to damage the stairs and we won't be able to take off again. You don't want that, do you, sir? We would have to change planes." So they're like, please get him to raise the stairs. But of course, he wasn't back there to raise the stairs. And when they landed, the stairs only just caused a few sparks. They hit, and I mean, the stairs were barely damaged. The underside had some scuffs on it, but remember, that plane is flying. The hijacking is Wednesday evening. That plane is flying passengers on Friday morning. So they did not want to lose one of their aircraft, did they? So they were very very quick turnaround on that flight. It's interesting. We did talk to a stewardess one time who saw the plane when it landed in Seattle, and she said it was full of like soot. She thought it was soot from like the engines or something, but it was fingerprint powder. The FBI didn't clean up the fingerprint powder. The folks at Northwest had to clean up the fingerprint powder. But did the crew ever get paid overtime for the hijacking? I'm sure they did. That's all airlines, the union stuff. So I'm sure they did. 12 hours on the dot, wasn't it? Since they were back in the air. Yes. That's one of those freaky things I love, is that they land at 11:01 p.m. in Reno and they take off at 11:01 a.m. the next day. Is Rob Hetty a nice guy like Mac? Yes. Rob Hetty's very friendly. Rob Hetty's an accountant. Maybe he may be retired now. But Rob Hetty's a good guy. Press R in Google Earth when the flight path looks wonky. It will fix it. Okay, thank you for that. I'll remember that. How lucky was Cooper that no one saw him land? Pretty lucky. But, not many people are looking up in the sky looking for, how often do you look up for parachutes landing near you? And parachutes are going to be pretty quiet. You're just silently landing. That's why people can land behind enemy lines and things. So unless you're looking straight up, you're probably not going to see a parachute. Okay. Let's see. But yeah, I think the crew definitely got paid overtime for sure on that. All right. Were you as amazed as I was at how smart those DJs in Minneapolis were speculating the night of the hijacking? Absolutely. I just adore that audio of those two guys talking, because literally, Ryan, did you thank Rob Hetty for fighting for our country in Vietnam? No, I did not thank him for serving our country in Vietnam. You can do that if you see him next time. I imagine Rob Hetty wants to forget Vietnam, kind of like my dad. Likes to. My dad wanted to forget his service for sure. I wish Darren would start his podcast again. Him and Ryan are the best in the vortex. Thank you. Yeah, Darren has no one to talk to. Darren will do his podcast. He just, nobody out there to talk to. One thing I would like to do, I may try to get audio one day for you guys. I may try to have a call-in show. I know that there's a way to do that to where I could actually talk to you guys. So if you wanted to, you call in. I think I may try and do that. Do you really think he accidentally left his tie draped over the seat? Well, it wasn't draped. It was in the seat butt. It wasn't draped over the seat. It was tossed in the seat cushion. But yeah, I think he accidentally left it for sure. Why would he leave it? I think that, again, as I've said a million times, what do you do with a tie? My dad was a Ford Observer. attached to I Corps, 25th Infantry Division. He was a forward observer, a scout. Anyway, yeah, I mean, why would Cooper leave his tie? What would possibly be the benefit of doing that? It's inexplicable. I mean, it was a brain fart. Yeah, he took everything else, so I think it was a brain fart that I think it was a brain fart that happened. Okay. I'll show you a misadventure with AI. How about that? I think you folks will like to see a misadventure. So when I make these AI videos, you plug in certain things about how you want things to look. They're called LoRa's, LoRaS. And LoRa's are like guides for how certain objects need to look in a thing. Nikki just sent something. Anyways, so check these out. These are pretty funny. The problem is AI doesn't do size very well. You have to like take a photo of your hand holding something so it knows how big an object is. So right here, you can see where you can see the ICS matchbook. Okay, so remember, Tina lights his cigarettes first with an ICS, International Correspondence School matchbook. It doesn't seem to know how big the matchbook was, so it gives it this giant. I mean, look at that thing. The biggest matchbook in history. I mean, that's like a fever dream, like I'm drunk or something. Like this is like a dream you would have about Cooper. It's like something from some silly music video, like this giant matchbook. Not good. Not good at all. And then sometimes it gets my characters confused. It will swap out Tina for Cooper. So this is a really good one. This one made me laugh. It's Cooper with the giant ICS matchbook and Tina smoking the cigarette. It's like, okay, although Tina did smoke, but wrong side of the plane there. So yeah, do you think, Max says, do you think Rob Hetty will hate me if I talk to him at CooperCon? Why would Rob Hetty hate you? Max, it's a weird question, man. Why would Rob Hetty hate you? What happened to Cooper's drink cup? Did they dust it? They did. They pulled four plastic drinking cups out of the trash and fingerprinted those. And they weren't anyway, no fingerprints were found on the cups for whatever reason. AI lacks all context, so it won't make leaps. Yeah, you have to like I said, I have to like show it. This is what a matchbook is. This is how big it is, and things like that. He would hate me if I said, "Thank you for your service." No, he wouldn't. I think he'd be like, "Okay, thanks." I mean, nobody would ever hate you for saying thank you for your service. Were pilots unionized in 71? I think so, yeah, because they went on strike and stuff. So I would, yeah, Michael says, I spend way too much time worrying about whether Rob Hetty hates me or not. Yeah. Although I actually do have to wonder that because I'm trying to get the guy to come to CooperCon, but yeah, so I get it. Yeah, that's kind of strange. Max, I don't know why you think that Hetty would hate you. Better question is, why wear a tie in the first place? Well, to blend in. I mean, I think if you look at the video of the passengers getting off the plane, I think that if you were to watch the video, I think we counted up one time that something like only 5 of the guys weren't wearing ties. Let's see if I can upload this. I mean, I'm going to count quickly how many guys were wearing ties. I mean, that's just what guys did back then, especially a middle-aged man. You wear ties. Let's see. All right, the first people are FBI people. Okay, this is the first passenger here. That's Roy Klaus. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bill's not wearing a tie. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That guy's 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah. So 23 of the male passengers. I think that, let me look up on my NORJAC. So 23 male, 24, including Cooper, but let me see how many male passengers there were. Let's see. So 23 were wearing ties. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So yeah, there's 30 men on the plane, and 23 of them are wearing ties. So yeah, everybody wore ties back then. That's just what they did. So yeah, those were some really 70s wide ties, except for little Mr. Cooper, right? Except for Cooper's little tie, right? Little skinny tie Cooper. Definitely out of fashion by that time, for sure. No doubt. I have him getting in line behind Robert Gregory for some reason. I'm not sure why I did that, but Robert Gregory was a tryhard who seemed to want to insert himself in the case. So from heaven, Mr. Gregory, I'm putting you in line in front of Cooper, just for the hell of it. Cooper did everything for a purpose. Why take it off? Why take the tie off? I mean, he was hot. I don't know. It would have been cold with the down. I don't know. I mean, just don't. I don't know. I guess he didn't want to jump with a tie on. I'm not sure. That's a good point. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, you could jump with a tie on, I suppose. It'd be flapping around. Although I assume that Cooper, they could choose their own seats, correct? Yes. Yep. It's a clip-on that shows a lack of class. Not really, Lord Byron. For example, I mean, it depends on your occupation. Any occupation that involved machinery, they wore clip-on ties because they didn't want to get their tie caught in a machine and have it choke them to death. So they wore clip-ons so they could be pulled off. Cops wore clip-ons so a perp couldn't grab them by their tie and yank them around, right? So why do people think Cooper was perfect? I don't know. He was not perfect. Cooper's a weird dude. I just don't know what to think about Cooper sometimes. A lot of them are wearing the dusters too. Yep, absolutely. Yep. I like to say that, what's his face? Wesley Jensen is wearing a Cooper outfit and even has his hair. He died a few years ago. He was 100 years old. Wesley Jensen you'll see a guy, let's see. He's next to Bill, or he's kind of, where is he? Here he comes behind the tan coat guy. There he comes in the black. There he had the blackened glasses. Wish I could rewind that. Maybe I can. I can't rewind. That stinks. So Wesley Jensen, his hair is like dyed black. You can tell that he was like 50 years old or something like that. His hair was definitely dyed black. And remember, I think George Labissiere is drunk. I'll kind of point out as they come in front of the screen some of these passengers who we kind of hear about a lot. Okay, here's the first passengers. Here comes Jack Olmstead there in the blue. Here comes, look, there he is, Labissiere. Looks drunk. Okay, here's Larry Feingold right there. There's Bill Mitchell. Here's Robert Gregory. There's Nancy House, and then Spreckle. There's Michael Cooper. And Pat Minch is right there. He's still alive. There's the Simmonses. Richard Simmons, sweating to the oldies. These are the GSA guys. And here comes the cowboy looking all pissed off. He's angry, looking rough. There's the cowboy. So Michael Cooper. Yes. Cooper's a very weird dude and very capable of making mistakes. And he did make mistakes. He was very fortunate that it didn't get him caught. I think so too. Cooper made no effort to disguise himself. So why would he care to blend in? But that was his disguise. That is his disguise. That's why Mac wore a suit. The disguise is blending in. Okay. And you're saying, so yeah, he could have worn a turtleneck and not said, no, the best, hey, hi, Steve. No, the best thing to do is to wear a suit because you're just going to, it's either he couldn't, it's either I can't work it out or he only planned the first half of the hijacking. Yeah. His disguise could have been a shaved beard or mustache. Absolutely. That's why Skip Hall has a great look because look, everyone would have known Skip Hall as wearing a mustache because he always had a mustache on. But hey, he had a little skinny Clark Gable mustache. You can grow those things in 2 weeks. So that's a great disguise to be a person who has facial hair and is known to have facial hair, and then you don't have facial hair. Because if everyone thinks of you as having facial hair, then they're never going to make the mental connection between the sketch and you. Or that could even be you because hey, that guy didn't have a mustache, so it couldn't be you. So, or if Cooper grew a beard after. I mean, yeah, Cooper could grow a beard after, but the better disguise would be to shave your facial hair if you're known as facial hair. Because if you grew a beard afterward, the people who know what you look like clean shaven are going to see the sketch and go, that could be Joe or whatever. What was the facial hair trend in 71? Probably some of the hippies had handlebar mustaches and things. There were some people with facial hair. Although I don't think we have any passengers with facial hair. No. I'm just looking at it. No. So, I mean, if that's a sample size of men of the time period, not a single one has facial hair. So, yeah, I think we're a little early for the Raleigh finger mustaches. I feel like that's mid 70s. Do I think anything associated with Cooper aside from the tie suggests anything about his occupation? No. I mean, he seemed to know a little bit about airplanes, but I don't know if that means the one thing that Cooper, it's just, how would Cooper, like if Cooper was a pilot, this is why I hesitate to think that Cooper was a commercial airline pilot, because a commercial airline pilot would know that there's no way you can make it to Mexico without stopping to refuel, flying with 15-degree flap indent and gear down. Impossible. So I don't think he thought that through. And I think that an airline pilot would know better than that. A small plane pilot maybe wouldn't think like that. But what disguise would Coop pick today? Still suit and tie again? It works in all eras? Yeah, suit and tie works fine. These days at the airport, you probably wear frigging sweatpants and a hoodie. Do I think Cooper had a real job or was a career crook? I think he did not have a job at the time, or if he did, it wasn't a very good job. Korean War paratrooper, possibly, or World War II. I mean, World War II probably more likely, considering that there were more paratroopers in World War II, just a lot more. and his age too. Cooper's a World War II generation guy for sure. Speaking of the generations that fight in wars, Mad Men. You guys watch Mad Men. Obviously, there's Cooper connections. Just a random. Hi, Chad. Just a random thing that bugged me about that show. Don Draper fights in the Korean War, and they show him as some like bright-eyed like kid during these Korean War flashbacks, right? But Don Draper is born in 1925 because in 65 they have his 40th birthday episode, right? So he's born in 1925. A guy born in 1925 who grew up in a whorehouse like Don Draper. That guy is 18 years old in 1943. There is no way that dude is not joining the Army or the Navy or whatever, or being drafted. You're 18 years old, a farm boy from a whorehouse. Don Draper's a World War II veteran, not a Korean veteran. I don't know why that made him a Korean veteran. It doesn't make any sense. He'd be old in Korea. It makes no sense. I don't know why. And Roger Sterling, the character Roger Sterling, who's older than Draper, is a World War II guy, and he's the World War II guy, and Draper is the Korean. It's just no. Don Draper is a World War II veteran. I don't. Why do they make him? I don't know. That bugs me. Little things like that bug me. Dick Whitman, yes. He's saying, okay, Pat, is that true? He says Dick Whitman took Don Draper's birthday. Dick was younger. Now that's interesting. Because you're right. Maybe you're right. Because Don Draper was an officer, right? He's like a captain or something. So he would have been a little bit older by career. It'd have been 25, 26, 27. So maybe that's the case. Maybe that is true. Okay. Somebody said a question. Yes, I'm still trying to get Hetty to come, Max. Can you give a quick rundown of the Canadian hijacking that you think inspired Cooper's heist? Okay. So Paul Sini was from Scotland. He moved to America when he was like 15 or so, or moved to Canada when he was 15 or so. He had a romance with a woman and it fell apart, and she had a baby, and she gave the baby away for adoption and left him. And it really kind of made him become an alcoholic. He got into drinking after that, and he became an alcoholic. And he was watching TV. He worked at a music store. He sold records, and he was watching TV one day at his mom's house where he lived. He lived with his parents. He's like 27 years old, living with his parents still. You're a loser, basically, you would say, I guess, for back then. And he's watching the TV, and by this point, he's already a felon. He was kind of he did heists. He stole cars and things. He's kind of a car thief. But he's watching the news about a hijacking. He's like, these hijackers, what's their problem? Like, why do they do this? They have no way of escaping. Why would you commit a crime and have no way of escaping? And in a drunken haze, he thought, oh, a parachute. That's brilliant. Now, he had no parachute experience, none. He goes to Chicago and buys a parachute, comes back and hatches this scheme to jump out over the Grand Canyon. He's gonna hijack an Air Canada flight and then have it land in America and get $1 million. I think is what he wanted, $1 million. And then he's going to jump out over the Grand Canyon. I don't know why. He's going to divert the plane from Montana down to Phoenix or somewhere and then jump out of the Grand Canyon. Who knows? But he comes up with this plan, and he boards this plane, sits in first class, and boy, that hijacking is ugly because he's drunk, and he's got real dynamite, like not joke. He got real dynamite. He had a shotgun that he fired in the plane. He fired it, and it went through the cockpit. It blew a hole in between like first class and the cockpit. Didn't hit anybody in the cockpit, but blew a hole in there. The pilot said that they instinctively grabbed their oxygen masks because they thought the bomb had gone off or something. But he makes a stewardess hold a bomb wires apart with one hand. He's like, hold it with. He sticks a piece of dynamite in a male flight attendant's mouth. He was just Sini's hijacking's nuts. But he hijacks a DC-8. There's no stairs on a DC-8. He was going to jump out the emergency exit. And the pilots are telling him, they're saying, look, the emergency exit won't open in flight because of the slipstream. It's blowing the other way. You can't open a door. Like, you can't open a door out when there's wind blowing against it, right? So he goes, okay, well, I'll make a hole in the plane with dynamite and jump out. They're like, what? So he was literally like about to try and like blow up a dynamite stick to blow a hole in the plane. And when he's doing so, before he does so, though, he goes, well, he says, I'm going to blow a hole in the plane. They're like, please don't do that, sir. He decides he needs to open his parachute first. His parachute he brought his parachute on the plane wrapped in like a bag with cord wrapped around it. And he couldn't get the knots out of the bag. And so he's like, does anybody have anything to cut anything with? And a male purser's like, well, there's an axe. We have an emergency axe, has a sharp blade. He's like, yeah, bring that to me. And they hand this axe to Sini. And as he's like trying to like open this, he has a shotgun in one hand and he's trying to open with an axe this twine. He puts the axe down after he cuts open the bag. He puts the axe down. And when he does so, the pilot is standing back there, grabs the axe, and the pilot and two male flight attendants tackle this guy. And there was a actual literal fight. He would not go down. They had to hit him multiple times with the axe, but the sharp end. They're hitting with the sharp end, and that's not taking him down. I felt like Stuart Bonney was the guy's name. Stuart, he was like 25. He was a flight attendant. I could see myself in his shoes. I would not want to ever hit somebody full force. I don't care what they're doing with an axe. The thought of that sounds horrible to me. So I think he probably wasn't hitting him full strength. And so the pilot, who is still holding on to him, he goes, flip it around. And so he flips the axe over and he finally cracks Sini in the skull with the axe, with the blunt end of the axe. And that is what eventually ends up with Mr. Sini being there in the hospital with his terrible head wound. So yeah, it was a really blood was everywhere. They were like, it was just the gore all over the inside of the plane. So, I mean, this guy, it was a real, I wrote about a 8,000 word chapter of my book on Sini, but it doesn't fit in the book. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe I'll try to get it published in like Smithsonian Magazine or something like that. But I have a long article that I spent a month researching on Paul Sini. But yeah, the Sini hijacking was intense. It was really, really scary. It was an ugly scene for sure. Sini, though, gets out in 1981 or so, and he's still around. Chris Cunningham talked to Paul Sini. I've heard Paul Sini's voice. I found Paul Sini. I found his phone number. I don't like cold calling people. Chris Cunningham has no problem cold calling people. I said, Chris, you call him. And so, because I was trying to get him to Cooper, I was trying to get Paul Sini to come to CooperCon, right? Because hey, in my opinion, Paul Sini is the one that came up with this idea of a parachute hijacking. Although I did have a viewer send me an episode of a TV show. It's a TV show from the 50s, and I'm gonna do a video on it. I watched the whole thing. I was like, damn, this is interesting. There's a TV show that I forget what it was called from the 50s. And it was like the show followed around like Air Force pilots. I don't know what their missions were or whatever, but it's like these Air Force pilots, not during a war or anything, but they're just Air Force pilots. And in this episode, they are boarded at like an Air Force base by guys who are posing as Air Force pilots or whatever. And they board this plane and they take it over. It's an Air Force cargo plane. Okay. And they tell these pilots, we need to fly to a certain place, and we're going to land there. And we're basically, these guys were bank robbers, and they were going to be dressed like Air Force pilots. They were going to rob a bank, in the episode, and they get on the plane, they get back on the plane, and they tie up these Air Force pilots. Okay, they tie up the Air Force pilots who are on the plane, the good guys, right? The good guys are tied up. And they tell the pilots, we're going to put this plane on a flight to Mexico or somewhere. And then they're going to jump out with parachutes with their money. They're like, we're going to jump out. And they're telling, of course, right? The bad guys always tell the good guys their plan, right? So the bad guys are saying, we're going to jump out with parachutes. And when the plane eventually runs out of fuel, it's going to crash. And your bodies, because you guys are tied up, you pilots, you Air Force guys, your bodies are going to be found. And they're going to think that you were the ones who robbed this bank, because they saw Air Force pilots leaving the scene and then getting on a plane and flying off. So they're going to jump out with parachutes. So that's actually that might be the first parachute hijacking. Although it's not really a hijacking. Well, yes, it is a hijacking. I guess because they take over the plane. It's a hijacking bank robbery. So I don't know. I find that really interesting. And I think I'm going to make an episode about my show, about that, because I don't know if that means anything, but I still think, look, I mean, I think that Paulsini is the godfather of all this. But anyway, Chris Cunningham called this guy who was Paulsini, and Paulsini said, yeah, that's my name. Paulsini's my name. People get me mistaken for the hijacker guy all the time. But it's not me. Sorry. And he hung up. It was Paulsini. It is Paulsini. I know. In fact, I came across somebody who knows Paulsini and said, yeah, that's Paulsini. So, but hey, and the guy doesn't want to relive the past. I can respect that. I'm not going to bug him, but it's a shame because I do think that he would be a hell of a guest, right? I mean, this guy is the paterfamilias of all Cooperites, in my opinion. Drunken Scottish Canadian who was sticking dynamite in flight attendants' mouths. I saw you on the Seth. I'm sorry, Seth, I'm not saying your name right. Podcast and DB Cooper Sleuth. It was great. Thank you. Do you have the FBI documents in a database of sorts with text search? Of course. I was trying to convert the huge PDF files to readable text, but it seems like a lot of work. Yeah, Joshua, email me. I can send you a link that's got most of them scanned. But yeah, it is a lot of effort. It was a lot of effort to scan all those, but I did it. Yeah, Cini went ham. Yeah, but yeah, the FBI never had a searchable database, and that's why they, weren't able to find things, right? I mean, Larry Carr would have had to have gone through 80,000 pages to come across the one document that says we destroyed the cigarettes. So when Larry is saying that the FBI lost the cigarettes or misplaced them, he didn't know. But if Larry had a searchable database, he could have just typed in, Going through Wikipedia, why is John List listed as a suspect? Because he was. I mean, in fact, there might be 2 or 3 pages. 2 or 3 pages. Might be maybe 100 pages of John List stuff in the of all the hijackers. Of all the suspects, the most pages are going to be for Kofelt, I think, and then the second most probably McCoy. Langseth has a bunch, and John List has a bunch. Because look, John List fit the profile. He was the right age. We had passengers who were saying that John List, that his mouth and stuff looked like Cooper, right? We've got, where is it? Let me try to find that. If I can find where they said that about John List. Here we go. Yeah. So we look at John List. We have Robert Gregory saying, and this is the photo that he was shown. It's in the FBI files. It says Mr. Gregory did not identify List as a subject, but remarked that he bears a strong resemblance to the unknown subject, Cooper, especially in the areas of the hairline, nose, and lips. So yeah, hairline, Coopery, nose, pointy, skinny, narrow nose, people. Come on. I will die on that hill. Cooper did not have a blunt nose. And the lips, there's that heavy lower lip, right? So, List, made them interested, and a guy who just killed his family certainly has nothing to live for, I guess, maybe. Do you think the case will be solved in your lifetime? I don't think it'll be solved in anybody's lifetime. Max, you believe that if you met Rob Hetty, you and him will become friends? I think so too, Max. There are now at least 3 different ways to reveal redacted text, depending on the method used. If they used Adobe to create this PDFs, it would be a simple job. I've tried. It's box text. It's a box redaction. So it's not the line. It's a different kind of redaction than like the Epstein files and things like that. So I've tried. Believe me, when I heard that people were doing that, I ran to my files like, oh my God, but no. And I know they're using Adobe because I think because it's the same boxes that I can make on Adobe for redactions, but I don't know how you would see under them. I don't think. The cigarettes were evidence. Why destroy them? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Because they thought it wasn't evidence to them. They thought there was no, nothing they could do with it. So according to their theory, he killed his family, did the hijacking 3 weeks later, then hid for 17 years. No, he was a suspect before they found him. Okay. They didn't know he lived for 17 years. In fact, John List, if you think Cooper died, if Cooper dies, and List is a good suspect until they found List, right? He was a missing person. More competent redactors on the Cooper case than the FBI files. Probably. Competent. They're overzealous. They do mess up sometimes. You will catch them a few times messing up the redactors. They will miss the name of somebody sometimes. Have the Fazio brothers ever been invited to CooperCon? Surely Eric invited them at some point. Eric was close with them, so I have to think he did, and they didn't want to. I remember seeing the John List story on America's Most Wanted. Yeah, freaked me out as a kid. It freaked a lot of people out. Freaked me out watching reruns of John List. That guy was sick. Like to kill your three kids, his mother and his wife. There's a UK streamer who has cracked hundreds. Okay, I'll go on the dark web, Mittens. I'll see if I can figure out how to unredact these files, because who cares? Ryan, don't give up. I'm not giving up. I'm just being realistic here that I think any evidence is going to be long gone by now. And look what happens when you die. Okay. If your stuff, somebody comes and throws your stuff in the trash for the most part. So let's just say Cooper dies. If he kept some keepsakes, nobody's going to realize what it is. Maybe he kept the boarding pass that he showed Flo. Maybe he kept it as a souvenir and shoved it in a book somewhere, and the book got thrown away. Or maybe his grandkids found a couple of 20s that he kept as souvenirs, and they say, "Oh, it's money. Papa left money behind in upstairs." Something like that. Do we know Cooper's approximate shoe size? No. I don't know. That's interesting. Fun fact, John List's house had a Tiffany's stained glass worth $100,000 in 1971, if only he knew. Yeah, he had this old house, didn't he? It was like an old mansion sort of thing. Yeah. Cooper looked Latin and hopped off. He was the original Bad Bunny. Hardy har har. Not good one, Packer. I liked it. Have you ever thought of leaving all of your research and documents for future Cooperites? Yeah, my book is my everything I've got. And also my Norjack. Most of what I use is on Norjack. I actually made that website for me originally so I could access my stuff online wherever I was. Not likely to be solved. Sorry. I agree. Let me see if I can find, I wonder if there's any other, trying to find some of my, funnier AI disasters, because sometimes they are just absolute disasters. Oh well. Y'all will see a bunch of my AI stuff pretty soon. I think that's a good one. I'm proud of that one. This is a good one. And you can see how Williams is seen in this one. I mean, this is our first appearance of Hal Williams in our set here. Hal Williams. That is a guy who, I don't know what that guy is. I don't know what is. Hal's a hard guy to find information on. I've really tried hard to find info on Hal Williams, and I never can. But this is a pretty good one. You can see Hal Williams in the background at his podium. And like I said, this is well researched. This is as researched as it can get. So there we have Cooper again, sauntering over to stare at his, there's Hal in the background. There's Northwest Orient podium, which they had. So pretty good one. I would say so. So what motivates you to research if deep down you believe it won't be solved? Because I'm a historian, I think, more than anything else. Yeah, I think my book will be released this year. I may just release it on. I mean, I would like to have a physical copy. I mean, I'd like to have physical copies too, but I don't know. I may release it on Kindle or something. I don't know. But I mean, it's done. Unlikely, but not impossible. It's not like it's Jack the Ripper or something. The Jack the Ripper, anybody who thinks they're going to solve that is ridiculous. Like, do you know how many like grubby dudes were living in Whitechapel or coming through Whitechapel, London back then? Good luck. Or, I mean, we have a hard enough time with Cooper where we can go on Ancestry and look at these people's pictures and things. How would you ever solve Jack the Ripper? Like that just, no. How would you ever solve that? If, oh, absolutely. You're 100% right. If they ever charge someone, a defense attorney would have a field day over the destroyed cigarette butts. Yes. That is called the spoliation of evidence rule. I've had to deal with that as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. I've had to deal with that in trials. It's called the spoliation of evidence rule. So what it means is essentially, if I was, let's just say I get a phone call and it's Dan Cooper. And he's saying, hey, Ryan, I'm 100 years old. I'm going to turn myself in. I need you to defend me. Basically, the argument would be to say, look, the FBI has a duty to never destroy, or the law enforcement, they have a duty not to destroy any evidence that could be in any way possible be used to make a person, I guess, to show their innocence, essentially. So if the government destroys evidence that could have exonerated you, then essentially the judge will either just dismiss it outright, or he will give a jury instruction, and jurors generally try to follow jury instructions. They're kind of supposed to. Exculpate, yes. Exculpatory evidence. Thank you, Packer. Lawyers should know that. But anyway, the judge is, by law, on spoliation of evidence, supposed to instruct the jury that if this evidence still existed, you must take it as this evidence being exculpatory for the defendant. So in practice, what that means is that the jury would be told, you have to pretend that these cigarettes exist, that DNA was run on those cigarettes, and the DNA does not match the defendant. So that would essentially be done with it. I mean, it'd be done. When you were a DA, were you involved in the investigation at all, or were you just handed the evidence packet and case files? You mean like For like just in general, like crimes that occurred in my jurisdiction, or you're talking about the Cooper? I wasn't involved in the investigation as an attorney. You don't do that. No, attorneys don't. It's like Law and Order, right? The show Law and Order. You know, the attorneys prosecute with the evidence that you're given. So yeah, I'm just given an evidence file. I'm given case files. I don't ever do investigating, because by the time it gets to me, they're already indicted. So by the time it did get to me, I'm a defense attorney now, Bilal. I was a prosecutor, and now I do the other side. What other historical topics do you nerd out on? I used to could name. It's stupid. I almost want to admit it, but the Titanic and the Alamo, I could probably name 200 or 300 Titanic crewmen and passengers. The Alamo, when I was real young, I am such a nerd that I was trying to memorize all 186 defenders' names. So Alamo, I did Amelia Earhart for a while. The Titanic, though, is probably the one that the topic I know most about is either the American Civil War, the Beatles, yep, the Beatles. Thank you, Packer. I know a lot about the Beatles. I've seen like them people raving about how Jack White. There's like all these Instagram videos of Jack White being able to like name a Beatles song in 1 second, like the very first like 1 second of the start of the song. I'm like, I can do that in my sleep, very easy. So DAs really depend on how good the evidence, how good the police investigate and collect evidence. Yes, or how dumb the police can be. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. So we had a trial one time for a guy named Peanut. Now, Peanut had his head was shaped like a peanut. Okay. Peanut was kind of a local nerdy well who always get in trouble. I'd see Peanut every couple of years. He'd go in and then get out and do it again. So Peanut robbed a liquor store in Chula, Mississippi, which Chula is like, a town that not one stoplight town, like a no stop sign town. Okay. So Peanut robs a liquor store. Funny story. Before this incident, the first time we got Peanut in trouble, we had the video of Peanut robbing like a Walgreens or something, and we had the video evidence. We had a video footage of Peanut in his peanut head robbing this store, robbing a Walgreens. And I said, look, and he was in the jail. The jail is not far in Yazoo County, which was one. I had 3 counties that I was in charge of, and the Yazoo County, the jail is real close. So Peanut's public defender was trying to get Peanut just to plead guilty. Peanut always wants to do trials. I'll do a trial, even though he's guilty as hell. So she's like, look. So she's like, can I bring Peanut over from the jail, and can you show him this video of him robbing this Walgreens? What the flip? Okay. Sorry, just had another troll. That's great. Love when trolls come on my show. That's great. Anyways, so Peanut, yep, that's a bot. So Peanut comes to my office, and the defense attorney is like, all right, show him the footage. And Peanut is even looking. What the flip? I'm getting these spam. Like, what are they doing? Sing Wang Chung Lee Ho. Anyway, so Peanut's in there and he's looking at the footage. He's looking at the footage, and he's like, I don't know. And this female public defender she goes, damn it, Peanut, you know that's you. But anyway, it was Peanut. But regardless, okay. So a couple years later, fast forward, Peanut robs a store in what is this crap? I'm getting bot attacked. Anyway, so Peanut robs a store in Chula. Okay, at his trial, he wants a trial. At his trial, now the liquor store clerk picked him out of a photo lineup. That's how he was picked out, because his head obviously is pretty easy to pick out, right? So Oh my God. I'm distracted by this freaking, what in the world? I forgot. In the future, I'll do this, folks. In the future, I'm supposed to be able to make it to where only subscribers can comment. So the bot troll is probably Dan Grider. Yeah, probably so. It's making me annoyed too because I can't tell my freaking story. Anyway, so remember, he's picked out of a photo lineup. That is how we got Peanut. That is how we got Peanut. Oh God. Yeah, I can't. I can't switch it to subs only in real time. I don't think so. I can. I don't think I can. I'll try, but anyway, I'll tell the story. So Peanut is picked up a photo lineup. Sorry, trying to tell this story. It's a good story. Yeah, I'm just trying to get these bots out of here. I don't know how to do this. Just give me a second, people. Bear with me, and I will try to. Get this to where. Here we go. Okay, I'm sorry, folks. Comments, only subscribers. All right, so I have it for only subscribers. Now, maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. Okay. Okay. So we're at the trial, and the only evidence is this photo lineup. Now, remember, you are dependent upon your cops. And as you're talking about law enforcement, when you're a prosecutor, they bring you the case files. And I had not seen an original. I had seen a copy of the photo lineup. It was in my file. A copy of the photo lineup was in my files that was given me of the 5 faces or whatever. So, but at trial, you are supposed to present the original of any evidence. So we're at this trial, and I have to present into evidence the photo lineup. So because the witness is on the stand, then I can say, is this the photo lineup you were shown, and which one did you pick out? Yada, yada, yada. All right. So I open up the original case file folder, okay, from the cops that they gave me. And it's 5 photos, okay, 5 photos of 5 faces, all in black and white, except Peanut's. Peanut's photo is in color. And I go, oh my God. And I'm just like, oh no. So this is the original that they showed. So they showed the clerk 5 photos, 4 black and white, and Peanut is in color. And that's obviously extremely prejudicial, right? So a buddy of mine is the defense attorney for Peanut at this point. And I'm like, oh boy, because before you introduce anything into evidence, you have to show it to the opposing counsel. So I'm like, this is stupid. So I'm like, great. So I walk over to my buddy, and I just don't even say anything. I just hand it to him. He looks at it and goes, and I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, Your Honor, may we approach? Because I know that I can't just introduce this. It'll be, because obviously my buddy Mike's going to be object to it and say you can't, And that's the entire case is the photo lineup ID. And so we go up there and we move for a mistrial, and that's what happens to Peanut. So Peanut's probably back in jail now, but prison. But yeah. Lord Byron, you're not wrong. He says, that's why you always go to trial. Peanut's smarter than you think. Peanut. We had some good aliases. Peanut was this guy's alias. So and I'm not kidding. He looked like a peanut head, but people called him Peanut. So on these indictments, it'll say I don't know what his name was, Mark Jones, AKA Peanut. So they always have your aliases on your case files and things like this. And you've got some good ones. My favorite was Cool Beaver. Cool Beaver is my favorite name for a guy I prosecuted. Cool Beaver was a guy named Sam. He was a drug dealer in Holmes County, Mississippi. And his grandma came in to talk to me to plead for mercy for Cool Beaver. And even his grandma's going, oh, Cool Beaver's a good boy. And I'm like, his name is Sam. But I told this story before, and it's great. So we get love letters. As a prosecutor, we call them love letters. When you're a district attorney, you get love letters, I call them, from people in jail, people who are awaiting trial. They'll write you a letter and say, "Hey, I didn't do this, whatever," and whatever. But so I get a letter, and a letter just shows up in my mail. I'm a prosecutor, and in fact, do I have? I thought I might have it. Anyway, I thought I had. I've kept it all these years, but it was a letter, and I opened it up, and it said, Ryan best say he gonna free to beeve. If and he don't, I'm gonna get up and leave. And it was all this like, I ain't got no time to bleed. And it was like this terrible like poem. And I'm like, what in the hell? And so, and it ended again with Ryan best say he gonna free to beeve. And so the next day I see Beeve's defense attorney, who's the same attorney from Peanut, public defender friend of mine. And I say, Mike, what the hell is this? And I show it to him, and he goes, ha ha ha. He goes, that was me. So it was a prank my buddy played on me. My buddy went to the effort of composing for his client. His client was Beeve. So he wrote free to Beeve. So a defense attorney mailed that to me, my buddy, as a prank. So yes, free to Beeve. Beeve did not get free, but I did not prosecute marijuana crimes very hard. So it was a marijuana crime. So I didn't get, yeah. The best liar in this case is Robert Ragshaw. He doesn't really have a distinguished flying cross. That's wrong. Max, that's wrong. He does. I'm quite certain he does. It's in the papers. I mean, 100%. No, watch my video on Ragshaw. Yeah, he does. If you go watch my video on Ragshaw, he's got he definitely won the distinguished flying cross for sure. I forget what he did to earn that. I think he provided cover fire for a medevac helicopter, I think. But no, Ragshaw was a good soldier. He was just a liar. He lied to get promoted. He was an officer, and you cannot be an officer without a degree. And Ragshaw never even graduated high school. Ragshaw forged his college degree. He forged his high school degree. And that's what kicked him out of the Army in 71, was he was lying about that. Yeah, Rekka is the biggest liar. Rekka is a phony, fraud, liar. He's a snake. Rekka is a joke. And everybody involved with that grift, and I will call it a grift. That is a grift for sure. It was a grift. Do you think that maybe somebody that was with the construction crew that worked on PDX may have been Cooper? No, because I just don't think that Cooper was from that area. Because why would I just don't think you're going to hijack a plane where people would recognize you. Because I mean, think about how many times you've been at the airport and have seen somebody you know, or not, maybe don't know them, but they're an acquaintance or something, right? You know, or that you knew them or know them, know them from somebody or whatever. I mean, I just don't think, and we have good evidence of this, right? I mean, Mac is from Detroit and hijacked in St. Louis. McCoy from Utah hijacked in Denver. LaPointe is from Connecticut by way of Denver, and he hijacks in Vegas. Now, Heinemann was mentally ill, and he hijacked basically in his hometown. So I can't believe they kicked him out of the Army. Ragshaw? Of course he was lying about he forged his documents. Of course he got kicked out of the Army. Do we have a list of all World War II or Korean War paratroopers? That would be, probably almost 100,000 people. Probably. if you added all the paratroopers up in World War II in Korea, it's probably 100,000. There were a lot. Paratroopers were not few and far between in World War II in Korea. There were a lot of them. He would have made a good Air America guy. Absolutely. Rackstraw certainly fits the profile. But they would not have hired him because he was a scoundrel and a liar. He could not have been trusted. He certainly fits the mold. If he had been honorably discharged, then yeah, he'd have been a good Air America guy because all those guys were kind of tough around the edges. But the CIA would not have picked up on a rogue like Rackstraw. Any chance Cooper was a CIA operative? I don't think so. They know who he was, but chose to cover it up? No. I mean, there's 80,000 pages of investigative documents into this case. I mean, the FBI spent a lot of effort on this. They knew who he was. I don't think so. But the CIA and the FBI do not get along and never have. I mean, 9/11 would have been prevented if they were better friends. But the FBI and CIA do not get along. So, yeah. Why do you believe Rackstraw killed his stepfather? Because he was abusive towards him? I don't know. I don't know what the motive was for that. Do we know how many people that was on board have been on the plane all day from other states? Yeah. And if so, every time they landed, they have to buy another ticket? No, you don't have to buy another ticket. I mean, they had just like now you have connecting flights. I mean, you buy one ticket and it connects you through Dallas to via Seattle or whatever, right? Same thing back then. There was one passenger, William Keats, flew from Minneapolis to Missoula. And then in Missoula, like 7 people got on board in Missoula. Actually, I actually have it right here. I can tell you right away, actually. Here we go. On the morning of November 25th, this one from my book, on the morning of November 24th, the aircraft was flown without any passengers to Minneapolis from Washington, D.C., where the crew for Flight 305 came aboard. Before picking up Cooper and 16 others in Portland that afternoon, Flight 305 had already boarded passengers at 3 previous stops. Leaving Minneapolis with a single passenger at 10:35, it flew then to Great Falls, Montana, where 7 passengers boarded. 8 more joined at the next stop in Missoula, with another 4 boarding in Spokane. Continuing westward, the flight arrived in Portland not long after 2 p.m. So, yeah, there you go. Do you know if they cross-referenced anyone that bought a ticket with the Cooper flight? Do you know if they cross-referenced anyone that bought a ticket with the Cooper flight? Was their connection? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Ryan, has Grider ever harassed the waitresses? The stewardesses, you mean? No. Ryan, I don't have anything interesting to say. Sure you do. We all do. We all have stories to tell. I just really enjoy your videos. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. Cheese is good. 1152. I agree. Cheese is good. So some of them didn't get off the plane in PDX. No. A few may have gotten off the plane at PDX to go to the bathroom or something like that. I think the McPherson's father and son got off because for whatever reason they're listed as being in PDX, but they weren't. I think they got off to go stretch their legs or something like that. I don't know. But no, no one got off the plane. Everyone who bought a ticket that day and was on Flight 305 had Seattle as their ultimate destination. Every single one of them. So if he wasn't from the area, do you think Cooper knew the terrain or was he just winging it? I think he was winging it. I mean, I think he was a tough guy. And if you're a paratrooper type or whatever, you're jumping into a county with 120,000 people in it in 1971. You're not jumping into the wilderness. You're jumping, as I always say, you're jumping 20 miles north of a city with an NBA team in 1971. So if you're big enough to have an NBA team, then you're not in the wilderness. So, I mean, look, Cooper jumps out. I mean, again, can I go back to this briefly? Let's look at our timestamps again. Let's look at where Cooper jumps out. Let me put up the roads here. Look at this. Cooper is jumping out. Wherever Cooper lands, he is going to be within wherever Cooper lands. Why can't I do that? Why isn't it? Hello? Not sure why it's not letting me do the mileage, but regardless, it's not letting me track my miles. Let me try and do it again. Nope, not working. Anyway, but yeah, look at this. This is I-5 interstate. Wherever Cooper jumps out, he is, less than 10 miles east of the interstate. So walk west and you're going to run into the interstate. This place is not barren. There's plenty of open ground in the drop zone, right? It's not, there are thick woods, especially when you're near the Lewis River, like right here. I remember driving through this area with Brad Legg and Nicole and Packer, and very, very thick trees. Hell yeah. But for south of the Lewis River, which is where he jumps out, it's likely he's jumping out south of the Lewis River. So anywhere south of the Lewis River is not terrible. But and again, he's only 10 miles at most east of the interstate. So he's just not jumping in the wilderness. That's just such a silly trope with Cooper, is that he's jumping in the wilderness, Who would have given him a free ride? He hitchhiked back to wherever? Maybe. I don't think so. I think the problem is, if you gave a guy a ride who may have been Cooper, you might not call the cops because you might be an accomplice. You might be afraid of being listed as an accomplice, correct? So do we know for sure that I-5 was there at the time? Yes, absolutely. 100%. In fact, I-5 might even be on the original flight path map, I think. I think if you pull up, let me see. If I pull up the flight path, yeah, look, okay. If you were to pull up the flight path map, you can see I-5 is right there. So, this is the map that they gave, it's the map that they gave. I've changed it a little bit, but it's the same sectional map and it's got I-5 on there. So yeah, I-5 was there for sure at the time. Rekka was walking down the I-5 that night as well, right? So yeah, but think about that. Like, if you picked up Cooper as a hitchhiker, and then you hear the story about the hijack, remember, nobody knew he jumped out around there. You wouldn't know for a couple of days, like, oh my God, that was Cooper I gave a ride to. You might think twice about going to the cops because they might think you're an accomplice, or they might think, oh, you're an accessory after the fact or something. So I wouldn't trust the FBI to not guard me against that. So yeah, it's possible. If he had a broken leg or arm, was there a chance that the nearest hospital could have had a patient with listed injury? Did the FBI look into that? Yes, 100%. Yep. The FBI went to every clinic. They went to every clinic and hospital in the surrounding area, and they put up flyers, and they talked to doctors, and they said anybody come in with lower leg injuries and things like this. There was one guy who was kind of a belligerent. Only one suspect was ever found to have been a guy at a hospital. And how did Rob Hetty dislocate his shoulder? Well, we can just look at how people land in parachutes, Max. Parachutes are not You can come down pretty hard in a parachute. Let's see. Here's one of my hard landing for Cooper, I think. I mean, you can hit the ground really hard, and that's how you separate your shoulder. And Hetty came down, and that's an easy landing. That wasn't a hard landing. Why did I say this? Why did I have that listed as a hard landing in my files? That's one of the. This might be the one. If you come down in a reserve chute, which is smaller, and Hetty came down in a reserve chute, you're gonna plow into the ground. Let's say like that. I mean, that's how you separate your shoulder, coming down in a parachute. Is you land like that, and that is how Hetty did. So McCoy was not injured. He was not. Now McCoy was actually already injured when the hijacking occurred. He was limping around a little bit. He had had severely hurt his ankle skiing. And the FBI were like, maybe that was a Cooper injury. The FBI were considering maybe McCoy, maybe this was an injury from his Cooper hijacking. But they went and talked to his doctor. This is in the FBI files. They go and talk to his doctor, and McCoy's doctor says no. He came here after he went skiing one day and tore his leg up. And then they went and interviewed the ski instructor. He was like, yeah, it was about a month ago. McCoy hurt himself. So, but they thought maybe it was, do I believe Heineman had injuries also? It doesn't seem like it. He was seen the next day getting a shave at some local town in Honduras. So I don't think, did Mac land head first? No, Mac hit his butt. Mac landed butt first and then fell backwards and hit his head. Is McCoy the highest level parachuter out of all the hijackers? No. McCoy only had 8 free fall skydives in his career before that one, before his last one. That was his 9th free fall. Rob Hetty was the NCAA champion. They used to have NCAA. I guess they used to have college skydiving. I guess maybe intramurals or something. I don't know, but they used to have a skydiving competition, and Hetty was. Let me pull up a picture of Hetty. His groovy picture after his arrest. I love this. There's Rob. Rob after being arrested. Rob was the NCAA champion skydiver out of Boise State University. Now it was called something different back then. I'm not sure what it was called at the time. But it's now Boise State. But yeah, he was a champion skydiver. So Rob is easy the best skydiver that attempted this thing. And I think that's why he'd be such an interesting person to come to CooperCon, because of how different he is than Mac, right? Mac's a career criminal, basically, or was on that path of being a career criminal who had never even put on a parachute. Hetty was a college student who did this because of his Vietnam trauma, and then became an accountant in prison and got out pretty early. So, I mean, Hetty is he's an amazing skydiver. So he's like the complete opposite of Mac, but yet they both did the same crime. So it's kind of interesting. How old is Hetty? I think Rob was born in 1950. So he's, what is that? 75, 76, whatever, something like that. If they could have flown to Mexico City without refueling, what time would they have arrived? Would it have still been dark outside? I assume so. Yeah, I would think so. No, I'm not going to lie, Mr. Sleuth. The more mysterious the post-jump details are, the more I think he didn't survive. Not a single detail is kind of crazy. Bilal, go watch my latest video about Cooper surviving. I mean, Cooper survives. I mean, Cooper, let's go back to it again. I mean, let's pull it up. This is why Cooper survives. Because the money found on Tina Barr. Okay, we find money here. Cooper jumps out here. So it doesn't work. the only way for the money to go from there to here, if Cooper dies in the jump, is if somebody found his body, buried it, and all the gear and parachute, so there was no evidence ever found for half a century, then took the money off his body and decided to go bury it on a sandbar 15 miles away. So if Cooper's money escapes the drop zone, then Cooper very likely escapes the drop zone. Just my thoughts. I don't know which shoulder he dislocated, Max. Not sure. I don't know which leg it was for McCoy. I meant over Seattle. What do you mean over Seattle, Cheer Mommy? What did you ask? Did I miss something, Cheer Mommy? Did I miss one of your, okay. It would have to be dark outside. They flew 2 hours over Portland, then we're on the ground for at least an hour. He means like in Mexico. If they had flown all the way to Mexico, would it have still been dark when they arrived? It's not so confusing, Bilal. Just go watch my back catalog of videos, and it'll make sense to you. It'll make sense. Now, Tina Barr does not make sense to anybody. It never has and never will. But anyway. Did McCoy use cartridges? I don't think his gun was loaded. I don't think so. Not sure on that, but well, he did give them a bullet though. He's so stupid. McCoy, when he gave the stewardess the note, he also gave her a grenade pin and a 45 caliber bullet. So she takes this grenade pin. So McCoy had a paperweight that was a grenade, right? Shaped like a grenade. And he had pulled the pin out of it and put it in his ransom. So like this note was like, oh, there's more where that's coming from. I have a pistol. Here's a bullet from it. And here's a grenade, the pin that I pulled from the grenade. There's no way he could have drifted to the river that feeds Tina Barr. No, and it feeds it. It's north of the river too. So it doesn't, it flows the wrong way. So even if like the Lewis River empties downstream from Tina Barr, so the money would not drift upward. So no. And again, that river is not huge. I mean, the Lewis River is, I don't know, 50 feet wide or something. I mean, maybe at most 100 feet wide. I mean, what are the odds you're going to land in that river? And it's kind of shallow too. In the wintertime, it's kind of shallow. So I don't the people who own Tina Barr bring sand in from other places? No, they export sand. Yeah, Cooper didn't go upwind or upstream. Thank you, Steve. That's a good way to put it. It didn't go upwind or upstream. Perfect. Thank you, Steve. No, the Fazios, they had a sand and gravel business. So they exported sand to other people. So Cooper survived and washed the majority of the money via casinos. Not all at once, but slowly and periodically. Probably. That's what I would guess. Did they ever investigate the Tina Barr owners? Yeah, of course they did. They're good people. The Fazios are good dudes, for sure. All right. Yeah, watch my recent video on the Tina Barr stuff. So anyway, all right. Well, listen, my voice is giving out, so I am done for the night. So that is all I've got, folks. So please please subscribe if you're not subscribed, and watch all my videos, and do all that other YouTube-y stuff we do. And I will talk to my friends again, and there should be a video coming out tomorrow, a new video, and I think it's tomorrow, maybe Thursday, I'm not sure, but a video will be coming out soon that should be all right. So, okay, bye, folks. Adios, amigo.